Hello everyone, welcome to the broadcast. I am Jai Gobind and I am your channel for grace. Thank you so much for watching the replay. If you're watching the replay and if you're in here live, welcome into this broadcast live. Like I said, my name is Jai Gobind and this is our new series of shows called The Awakening, how to activate or uncover the hidden power of your DNA. And we have been covering this very amazing book called The Gene Keys. Hey Greenie, how are you? Every time I put it up, it makes me blue. It turns me into an alien. So The Gene Keys is the book that we've been covering. And today, hey Leanne, how's it going? Thank you for sharing and inviting, beautiful ladies. Today we're going to cover the 5th gene key. So a little bit of introduction as to what the gene keys are. Hey Tony, welcome in. Greenie, thank you for the super hearts. I appreciate that so much. So sweet. We are broadcasting on Periscope and also on my YouTube channel, which is Channel for Grace. Now you can see it now at the bottom of the screen. I decided to get smart about it so that people can actually have a visual of the word. But definitely go and follow my YouTube channel. I just uploaded my first video of a series of videos called the Lightworker series. And basically think different topics to awaken you into your highest potential. And one of the things that I remember being the first thing that I embarked on when I realized that I was a light worker and that I was meant to bring a very strong message to the world was I started playing around with the oracle cards and the tarot cards. And so the video is all about how to pick the perfect oracle or tarot deck for you. So go on my YouTube channel and watch that video. I'm excited about it and excited about creating many, many more of this same type of videos, all giving you lots of information about how to step into your higher purpose as a light worker. Hey Sarah, welcome into the broadcast. So I appreciate you guys so much being here. And the gene keys are basically, there's 64 gene keys, and this actual book is based off of the I Ching, which is an ancient text that was written kind of like an oracle, kind of like poetry. The I Ching is used as an oracle where you just kind of flip to the page that you feel called to, just like you would pull oracle cards out. And then that page gives you the wisdom for the day for yourself. So it's, yes, so it's part of what helps us to really step into our higher power, because contemplating these powerful topics, these powerful themes actually helps to activate our DNA. So the whole point of this book, this Gene Keys, is to activate our DNA, to raise our vibration, to raise our frequency so that we can step into our higher potential, our higher purpose, and discover what that is. And I'm all about finding that. I'm all about discovering the truth. Hey Cody, welcome in. Was just finishing listening to the 4th. Oh, wow, really? Crazy. Well, I'm glad I came live. Dude, the 5th is actually in my chart. You can find your own map of the gene keys on the website genekeys.com, GENEKEYS.com. Matthew, welcome in. And you can actually so you put in your birth date, the time you were born, and the place you were born. Yes, me too. The 4th gene key was, hey Matthew, the 4th gene key was crazy. And it'll give you your own personal chart so that when we go over these gene keys one by one, you get a bigger and broader idea of what you're about individually, what your higher purpose is individually. Thank you so much for sharing and inviting Matthew. I really appreciate that. And you will also get to literally go through this entire book, which just by listening to this broadcast, just by listening to me read these gene descriptions to you, you are going to literally start to think a different way. And that's what it's all about. So today we're covering the 5th gene key. They all have pairs. There's 32 pairs. and then there's certain groupings that work together. And so when you think about your DNA, it's easy because I put a picture up behind me. You can look at it. You have these pairs, right? So you have this side, which connects to this side, and then you've got this side, which connects to this side. So each side is like one gene key, and then the other side is the pair of that one. So it's like the opposites combine, and when they combine, they kind of cancel each other out, and they become this city. So it's like the shadow energy of it and the gift energy of it, they combine together, they merge together, they transmute each other, and they turn into the city or the divine gift, which is the goal of all of the contemplating of these gene keys, is to awaken the cities or the divine gifts within each and every one of us. And we each have a very specific plan or map that we can access at genekeys.com. So feel free to go get your map right now and check and see if the 5th gene key is in your map. Does anybody have the 5th? You have number 4. I don't see number 5. Okay. Hey, Anne, welcome into the broadcast. Thank you guys so much for sharing and inviting. Please share and invite. I would really appreciate it. There's 64 total. And actually, the 5th gene key is part of my map. Time isn't real. I know, right? It's an illusion. So let's go to the 5th gene key, and we're just going to get right into it, okay? Yes, gene keys. So the 5th gene key is called the ending of time. And this is why I titled the broadcast, What If Time Didn't Even Exist? What if time didn't exist, right? Mine goes up to 57. So you have 57. Well, there's 64. So if you have, so you'll have random numbers in your chart. It's not like a specific order. It'll be pretty random. So the ending of time. The shadow of this gene key is called impatience. Impatience is the shadow expression of this. The gift is called patience. And the city or the divine gift is called timelessness. It can't end, and it has no beginning. The programming partner for the 5th gene key is the 35th gene key. How do we know? How do we know if time exists or not? I don't know. That's a good question. The codon ring is the ring of light, which is the combination of the 5th, the 9th, the 11th, and the 26th gene key. The physiology is the sacral plexus, and the amino acid is threonine. The 5th shadow, impatience. So I'm going to read to you guys about these different shadows. These different aspects of this gene key called the ending of time. The new genetic code. By the way, these things blow your mind. So get ready to blow your mind, okay? So in the 5th gene key that really forms, it is in the 5th gene key that really forms the backbone of the 64 gene keys. Containing all the codes and patterns of life, the 5th gene key represents the great digital library of consciousness in form. Did you get that? The great digital library of consciousness in form. These codes lie coiled and concealed within every single living cell, wound into the famous helical patterns of your DNA, just like the picture right behind me. The 5th gene key is also one of those gene keys that is found in all life forms, since it alone maintains the very rhythmical patterns that allow an organism to stabilize within its particular environments. Whoa is right. Furthermore, the 5th gene key is a great mystical chess piece within the genome, since it also unites all these separate organisms into one great universal rhythm, the pulse of life. Because the 5th gene key binds all living forms through the universal patterns, at its lowest frequency, it tends to display a deep distrust of life. So what is the significance of having a key or not having certain keys? So your map is your unique purpose. It'll guide you through how to basically step into your higher purpose as an individual. but all of the gene keys are part of who you are, except that some of them have much stronger expression in you than the other ones, and those are found in your map. So by studying your map, you will literally be able to step into your higher purpose as specifically you in this lifetime, in this body. That's the difference. Because the fifth gene key binds all living forms through these universal patterns, at its lowest frequency, it tends to display a deep distrust in life. This manifests in human beings through the fifth shadow of impatience. We know that all human beings carry inside themselves a deeply ingrained fear of death. What you may not realize is that there are many layers around this fear. Yes, genekeys.com, I believe. At the level of your personality, there is your outer fear, the prime fear you absorbed through the events of your childhood. This personal fear, in turn, gives way to the great collective fears. For example, the fear of change. At the deepest level, however, at the very precise precipice of awareness, lie the most ancient human fears, and this fifth shadow represents them. These ancient collective fears stem from one prime source, the fear that there is no underlying order of stability to your life. Your body itself will never feel safe. This is in fact the normal state of consciousness of the mass of humanity. Within the fifth gene key lies the greater secret of the timing of life. This gene key is about trusting or not trusting universal rhythm and natural timing. It sets the rhythms of the seasons. It fixes the timing of cell growth and decay in every living creature, and it governs all patterns of animal and human migration. As we have seen, all distrust concerning the timing of life manifests in human nature through the fifth shadow of impatience. This impatience is one of the greatest causes of disease on the planet, for it will undermine your health and well-being and cut you off from the very heartbeat of life. In a certain light, impatience can be viewed by human beings as a positive trait, since it can goad you into action instead of remaining complacent. This is a mistaken impression, since impatience is rooted in agitation, and all action arising from agitation is out of harmony with the whole. I do not fear death. I welcome it. A chance to go home. Why would we fear that? Right? I just did my map. Do you have the fifth gene key in your chart, Stephanie? There is a vast difference between acting out of impatience and acting out of resolve. Impatience, oh, by the way, you guys, if you could share an invite, that would be awesome. Impatience is not a natural feature of human character. You got to remember that. Rather, it is the result of a loss of your natural rhythm at a biological level. If you are feeling impatient, your breathing has become shallow and your nervous system is overactivated. Your core feeling is that all is not as it should be. Of course, this feeling is absolutely untrue. It's a lot of numbers. So it'll say 5 point something if this is in your chart. I don't know how to read this map. Well, you need the code. Where's the code? So actually, there's a book that you can get called, it's like the guide to help you figure it out. It's called The Gene Keys Golden Path, a step-by-step guide to your hologenetic profile. And it's called The Activation Sequence, Discovering Your Genius by Richard Rudd. So this is, thank you for inviting the book. Sorry, my green screen makes it disappear because time doesn't exist. I'm just kidding. So the activation sequence is one of the sequences on that map. There's also the Venus sequence and there's also the Pearl sequence. So the activation sequence are the green dots on the outside. They kind of do this shape. My lowest number is 9.1. Okay. And then the Venus sequence are the red circles that kind of go up from the bottom. And then the pearl sequence is the blue circles on the top that make like this triangle shape. So those are the 3 different sequences. So there's 3 different books explaining each of the sequences. And that's why it's cool to get the book so you can like follow along and do your own chart. But we're going to be going through each gene key like pretty much one a day until we get through all of them. And then we'll go and research another awesome book. Yes. Okay. Vanilla cake, what's good? Vanilla cake. Welcome in, Leon. Welcome in, Shauna, Julio, used, remarkable. All right, here we go. We continue on. We're reading about the shadow expression of the 5th gene key. If you are feeling impatient, your breath has become shallow and your nervous system is overactivated. Your core feeling is that all is not as it should be. Of course, this feeling is absolutely untrue. Everything is always exactly as it should be. What has happened is that you have fallen out of your natural state, the state of trust. He's from the UK. Nice, well, welcome in. Impatience is always rooted in the mind, and as such is unique to human beings because of the unusual nature of our neocortex, which processes information in such a way that we perceive everything as happening in time, with a past, a present, and a future. The only way to escape impatience is to escape the mind and its realm of time, which is precisely what happens at the higher frequencies of this gene key. Did you hear that? Like, did you seriously hear that? The only way to escape impatience is to escape the mind and its realm of time, which is precisely what happens at the higher frequencies of this gene key. Hey, Movie Trav, how's it going? There is so much you can learn about the 64 shadow archetypes by looking at them through their harmonic pairings. Psychologically, you can find the root of all human issues and complexes within the 32 shadow pairings. Did you hear that? So between the 32 shadow pairings, you can find all human issues and complexes. Well, that's why you want to read this book. You know what I mean? Hey, Betito, welcome in. That's deep. I let time go. Let it go. Let it go. Can't hold me back anymore. Let it go. Let it go. Each of the shadow pairings is literally set up to create obsessive patterns. The programming partner of the 5th shadow of impatience is the 35th shadow of hunger. These 2 states literally feed on each other. The hunger to escape the feeling of insecurity leads to impatience and vice versa. And it is all driven by the fear of time running out. In the modern world, you can really feel this deep-seated fear rippling through humanity. We have forgotten that life itself sets a pattern of evolution and that we are merely the agents of those patterns. From time to time, both in our personal lives and at a collective level, natural mutations occur when the stability of life is overturned. If you can enter deeply into the spirit of such times, you will come to realize that nothing is really out of balance and that all will reveal itself in time. Yeah, it does, right? It really does. Oh, my evening is so good. I'm doing really, really good. Thank you guys for coming in, by the way. Please share and invite. And if you'd like so-called, give some super hats. Okay. Because the 5th gene key connects all life forms into a wider pattern, you have to learn to realize that nothing happens by chance. Everything is connected to everything else. So when you find yourself moving through a difficult period, it means that all life is moving through a difficult period. The themes that punctuate your daily life are universal themes that are lived out by all humans and all creatures simultaneously. Whoa, what just happened? Thanks for the Super Hearts, Movie Trav. If you look at the state of the mass consciousness of our planet today, you will see a universal mutation underway. We mutating, people. Our entire species is undergoing a deep genetic quantum leap. As you come to terms with your personal fears, humanity comes to terms with its collective fears. Whoa. The very fact that you are reading this right now is telling you that life is examining itself in enormous depth. And in doing so, it is discovering all manner of anomalies or glitches in its programming matrix. Okay. As each glitch is observed, it is deleted. And as each fear is accepted, it diminishes. Beneath the old genetic code, a new one is thus revealing itself. Write it down. In summary, this fifth shadow of impatience is nothing more than a low frequency human response to a particular set of environmental conditions. Like all the shadows, it is simply a matter of perception and attitude. Time always moves according to your perception or your mood. What? Whoa! Time always moves according to your perception or mood. Whoa. If your breathing is calm, rhythmical, and deep, then time appears to dissolve. Your alien chart. At the highest frequencies of this gene key, you do not even notice time. The more you become aware of your own impatience and restlessness, the deeper you begin to sink into your true center, and the less you are concerned with time and timing. This is true. I mean, you guys tell me, have you guys experienced where like there's moments where it doesn't even matter what time it is because you're like just relaxed? The day can go by and it's like it doesn't matter. Time dissolves. This is the birth of a higher frequency. And that frequency is what we call patience. The fifth gene key contains the most beautiful of equations. I know. Acceptance equals patience, because the deeper you enter into your fears, the more patient you become. Can you be a little more specific, Sarah? But how? How what? When you're with good company. Yeah. I mean, I've felt this in my life. I've felt like there's moments where I'm like, I'm not worried. When I'm not worried, when I don't have anxiety, when I'm not stressed, it's like everything's chill. You know what I mean? And like, you're not concerned about, oh, what time is it? Am I late? Am I running late? Like, what time do I have to do this? That's like, you know, and then being like, oh my God, I'm running late. I gotta go. That energy, the go, 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 always go is like, it's like a little bit intense on your system. You have moments that drive people crazy. What if humans didn't exist? Ooh. All right, there's two ways for the shadow to be expressed. One of them is the repressive nature, and one of them is the reactive nature. So if you're repressive, you're going to be pessimistic. It is interesting. I can meditate for hours and it seems like 5 minutes. It is interesting to consider that pessimism is really rooted in impatience. One of the key features of all repressive natures is collapse, like time being contingent on. Well, what they mean by that is when you're in a hurry, time's running out. You feel like there's not enough time, right? But when you're relaxed, then time doesn't matter. Time's not running out. So it's your perception of it that basically determines whether time is running out or not. Do you know what I mean? That's what they're saying. It's a perception thing. It's not an actual time thing. It's all about our perception. Time is an illusion. That's basically what they're saying. Because time doesn't really exist. That's the truth of it. On mood. Well, yeah, the mood is like you're either impatient or your mood is either like you're in a good mood, right? You feel good. You're not worried about time. You know what I mean? That kind of mood, I guess, is what they're talking about. But then when you're impatient, that's like a bad mood, like you're in a bad mood. And they're like, then time's running out. And so time becomes an issue when in reality it doesn't really exist. Yes. Yes. I'm never in a hurry anymore. Yeah, me neither. So let's keep going so we can get to the gift. Okay, if you have a repressive nature, then you have at some level moved through some kind of energetic collapse. The fourth dimension is now. Yes, Batman. Cool. When impatience drives a person to give up on life, it manifests as pessimism. You know people like that? Pessimism is nothing but the vestige of a complete loss of rhythm in one's life. It is an expression of a deep-seated fear that nothing can or will ever get better. Pessimism pulls one into a downward spiral, feeding on itself over and over until it finally ends in crisis or some kind of psychological or nervous collapse. If a person has been swept into pessimism, there is nothing proactive they can do to break free. As their friend or an observer, you must trust that life will create a crisis for them, because eventually it will. Only such a breakdown or a breakthrough has enough energy to snap them out of their pattern. Did you just hear that? That means that you can't help people. They have to help themselves. And that's like a huge part of understanding what it really is to be a light worker. You can't change people. You can't, convince people to change. You can't convince people to feel better about themselves. You have to let them go through their own process. Because at some point you were there and you had to figure it out on your own how to get out, right? You don't get a person out of that. You let them get themselves out, right? So the reactive nature is pushy. You're pushy. Pushy. The anger-based version of pessimism is pushiness. This is simply a different type of nervous system, and it reacts to impatience in an extroverted manner rather than collapsing inwards. Pushy people are constantly trying to force life's flow. They push others around, becoming tetchy and aggravated, and can suddenly lash out for no apparent reason. These people also tend to manifest their inharmonious situations where natural timing is out of synchronization and nothing seems easy, as though life were deliberately blocking one's path. Even so, these kinds of natures stubbornly push on, making the situation worse and worse until something or someone has to snap in order to release the pressure. Oh boy. You can see how resistance to the natural patterns of life eventually brings one to a turning point, both in the repressed and the reactive nature. Welcome in, Santa Claus. At such turning points, the only decision is really, do I want to begin living again? Whatever a person decides, it must be respected as part of the wider pattern of life. I have been the one too many times. I know, me too. Okay, so that's the shadow of impatience. We move from the shadow into the gift expression. The gift is patience, moving from impatience into patience. The library of light. The antidote to impatience is patience. This may sound like a very obvious truth, but it is actually rather profound. Like nothing else in this book is. Just kidding. The ironic thing about patience, though, is that it takes patience to learn patience. And patience can indeed be learned. It is a self-proving gift. In other words, the more patient you become, the more you learn that patience always pays off. And thus the easier and more natural it becomes to wait. However, patience is not the same as waiting. You can wait both patiently and impatiently. Patience is the natural ground of your being, whereas impatience arises out of fear and conditioning. Patience is about trust. These two words have very similar meanings. I've been this person at times in the past. If you trust in life, you will trust life in every moment, even the challenging moments. And in so doing, you will always remain in the flow. As you live your life, you may notice many rhythms all around you, and it is the underlying presence of these rhythms that makes you feel stable. The most obvious annual rhythm can be seen in the shifting of the 4 seasons. If you are inwardly quiet, the passage of the seasons will make a very powerful impression within your psyche. It tells us some very deep truths that spring always follows winter, for example. In your daily life, you will experience periods of winter where resources may be scarce, where you may feel lost for a while, or when you simply feel melancholy for no apparent reason. Such stages are built into life, and if you are patient, they change of their own accord, and they always reveal some magic. As a vital element of the chemical family known as the ring of light, the 5th gene key plays a profound role within your genetics. Coding for amino acid known as threonine, it determines the blueprint for how your individual cells trap light and convert it into energy. Through the magnetism of your living aura, you draw in or limit the frequencies of light deep into the cellular structure of your body. If you live your life out of fear, magnetically speaking, you limit the amount of light that touches your DNA. The more open-hearted you are, the more you magnetize higher frequencies into that very same DNA. It is only at certain frequencies that particular codes can be activated. When you are in love, for example, you will always experience higher codes within your DNA awakening. Time will pass differently, almost as if you were in a timeless bubble. Anyone who has been in love can recognize and remember this kind of experience. The 5th gift of patience is a far greater gift than it may sound. Patience, when really experienced deep within the body, leads to the opening of your heart and to the consequent turning of a higher code within your DNA. Your DNA is a library of consciousness that is completely dependent on the frequency of light. The body is designed to awaken to these higher frequencies, which is why humanity really only seeks one thing: to live in the state of love. The more you are able to settle into a deep trust and patience with the rhythm of your own life, the more your heart will open and the softer and more yielding you will become in your attitude to everything and everyone that comes your way. You will begin to discover a higher functioning of your DNA, a code within a code. This code is not dependent on anything or anyone outside you. The state of open-heartedness or of being in love is a completely natural human state. There are people in the world who live permanently in this state. What if you're in love with someone who is not in love with you? I don't think she's referring, I think what she's referring to, well, being in love is an energy of being in love, right? You can be in love with someone who's not in love with you and still experience that timelessness. If you add in the factor of like, oh, well, they don't love me, well, then that just like goes into a whole nother story. But the initial state of being in love, I think, is what she's referring to. And it's not just about being in love with, because he says some people are in the world live permanently in this state. So what he's referring to, I don't know why I was calling her she, that was interesting. He's referring to is being in love with life, right? So the energy of being in love in general, not necessarily in a romantic relationship. The gifts that come to the patient person are not only inner quietness, but also integration. When you wait and allow life to reveal its natural rhythms, you also come to realize that life knows best. Hindsight shows you repeatedly that life is constructed of beautiful and perfect patterns woven into wonderful tapestries, and that your individual life follows such cosmic patterns. If you know how to wait calmly, you will realize that you are always a part of these wider patterns and that they actually support you at all times, even the most challenging times. Above all, the gift of patience allows you to hear life's music. Loving life is a beautiful feeling, yes. It tunes you into the subtle metronome behind your life. It allows you to breathe deeply into your belly and never feel trapped by your outer life situation. Patience smooths through rough edges, keeps your heart and mind open, and makes life seem simple and easy. Hola, Cordobesa. How's it going? When you become impatient, even for a moment, you have stopped listening and trusting in the greater life. For these reasons, it is patience that has always been the true gauge and measure of the greatness of a person's soul. What? That's true. You think of like ascended masters and you see like, oh my God, they're like the most patient people. Like they don't react. That's interesting because then I also watched a Matt Kahn video. Do you guys know who Matt Kahn is? Matt Kahn. Who knows who Matt Kahn is? He's a spiritual teacher. He's got like tons of YouTube videos. And he has a video out there that is all about how to determine like how spiritual you actually are. And the way that you determine how spiritual you actually are is by how quickly you react in like stressful situations. So like when you're like, oh, I'm in my, I'm zenned out. I'm totally zenned out. And then, yeah, so definitely look him up, Greenie, Matt Kahn. So you're like, oh, I'm all zenned out. But then all of a sudden you feel like something happens and you get like instantly triggered. And you go from like zenned out to like pissed off or something like really, really fast. And that means you're not really that you're not there. You're like, you're not really that spiritual. Because if you were truly spiritual, this essence of this gift of patience would be like something that emanates from you. It is interesting. It's very interesting. It's like, whoa. I mean, this is like, it's very deep to think about all this stuff. It's like, okay, then that means that if I'm having instant reactions and I'm going from like high to low really fast, I'm not really balanced, which means you're not really stable, which means you're not in your soul space, in your heart space. Because if you were truly in your heart space all the time, your initial reaction would be compassion towards everything. Compassion towards everything. You guys are funny taking screenshots of me. Okay, so basically, what this reminds me of too, K.A. Matt Kahn, I'll look it up, hang on. It's K-A-H-N maybe? Yeah, K-A-H-N. Matt Kahn. And, okay, so something happened. Do you guys know the story of, this is a really good example I can tell you about. Did you guys see in the news? Yeah. What happened with, there was, at the Lincoln Memorial, there was like a few different marches going on. It was like the Native American something march. It was the pro-life march. And it was also, and there was also like just people there like hanging out, right? This is like on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. And the story, there was a story that came out. Hi, sweetie, screenshot of the info on your, oh, okay. Yeah. It's all good. It's all good. Earlier today, someone was taking screenshots and then totally trolling me and then going back and creating a profile with my picture on it and then and I would block them and they would come back into my scope and keep trolling me. It was like really creepy. After that, I'm like, why are you taking screenshots of me? But it's okay, lighten up. It's all good. I'm glad you're doing that. So you have that information. I appreciate that. So, but basically, did you guys hear about that story? When kids tease yeah. So the initial story was a clip of this kid, like this white kid, right, wearing a MAGA hat, those like Make America Great hats. And so wearing like these, they were wearing these red caps. They were there for the pro-life march. And then there was a bunch of other people there, right? Oh my God, yes. And that guy didn't react at all. Well, hang on. There's way more to the story. Yeah, like Harry Bieber. Yearly Native American Peace Day. Okay, so there's way more to the story. Okay, so I'm going to tell you. So there was the clip of the kid. So the Native American man is like hitting the drum, and he's in front of this kid, and the kid's like standing in front and like smiling like in his face, right? And then there's all these other kids that were all high school kids around, and they're like laughing, and like they're just like reacting, they're laughing, they're jumping, they look like they're totally being disrespectful. Yes, to see the big picture, exactly. And that's the initial clip that came out. And then the mainstream media went crazy and started saying that like, oh my God, this is the youth of our country. Like even Nako, which I was surprised because I love Nako, but not when he gets angry, not when he reacts like this. And this is how you can tell whether someone's like in their grounded spiritualness or whether they're just reacting, right? That's such a perfect fit to this fifth gene key. So basically, even my favorite artist, Nako, he posted that video on his Instagram, told people like, he even wrote like, this is the America, the Trump's America. And he put like, he spelled America with 3 K's in it, like AMERAKKKA, right? He's like, this is Trump's America, you know, the youth of our country, like blah, 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 all this stuff. And he was like, this makes my blood boil. And he was like super angry about it, right? And he was like, here's the information for the school, call the school. And he was like, find those kids' social media accounts and like basically like go tell them that what they did, like tell them that they did something wrong. He basically telling people to go bully these kids, right? And when I saw that post, I was like, this is interesting. Like people are like freaking, they were going crazy, right? And then he's got like over 2,000 comments on his profile. Hey, turn ahead. So like over 2,000 comments, and people are like going at each other. Like most of them are saying like, yeah, like those fucking kids, you know, like fucking America. And like, it was insane. There was so much anger in that, like caught by that moment in time, that it was like, whoa, it was like such a trigger for people, and everybody like instantly reacted just because it's Nako, and just because, and it wasn't just Nako, like this happened throughout the US in a lot of mainstream media. Like the people that are like in the left, right, whatever, that they're like against Trump, just like jumped on that boat and were like, this is sick, this makes me throw up, you know, like crazy. They were all like going crazy, right? Well, then a couple of hours later, what I missed, what they did, I agree with Mr. Travel, who researched and then scopes. Yeah, Trump America is a racist place. I choose to respect all cultures. So then 2 hours later, like the full footage comes out, and what's going on is like there's this group of they call themselves the Muslim Israelites, and they are actually like harassing the kids. They're like yelling profanities at the kids, you know, telling them from the video I watched, telling them like, oh, you are the sons of incest and all this stuff, right? And these are like high school kids. I'm like, do you remember when you were in high school? Like, do you remember how like being in high school is like a tough time for a teenager? It's a rough time. Like when I was in high school, I was lost. I didn't know what I was doing. If I was in a group, like of course you're gonna like be influenced by what the energy of the group. And if you're being like attacked like that by these like grown ass men yelling at you, like that's crazy, right? So the kids start like chanting their school chant, which is like they're from a Catholic high school in Kentucky. So the kids are like jumping around and they're like chanting their chant. And then this Native American man who was like playing the drum like over there comes over and like walks right up to the group of kids and starts playing the drum like in their face. And then like he kept walking through the crowd of the kids, so that most of the kids moved out of the way, and they were like, what the fuck, you know? At first they were like kind of like getting all excited and singing along with him and stuff. And then he was like just trying to make his way across until he got to that one kid, and that one kid like didn't let him get out of the way, right? So who knows why that one kid was like, I don't think so. You know, it's possible that that kid felt threatened, you know, and he like wanted to stand up for his like his friends, you know? Yes. So anyways, the moral of the story is that like all these people just jumped and reacted without realizing that, and like attacked these kids. And you're talking about like this kid's family business getting threatened. They've gotten death threats. Like they've had to get him a lawyer. Like it's insane. Like what that one clip that wasn't the full story made people do, right? So in the end, it's like, don't jump, don't react, because you don't know the whole story. So patience is the virtue, right? When you have patience, like when you see something like that, think about, yes, it might trigger you, be like, but to me, it was like my instant reaction was, what's going on here? Like, I don't even know what's going on. I just see a clip of this, you know, a very short clip of this happening. It looks like it's this happening, but I don't really know what's going on. So it was actually a cool thing. It was actually cool to be able, yeah, which part are you referring to? That's terrible. Is a longtime veteran world journalist that reaches everything deeply. Yeah. So anyways, the moral of the story is like the reaction, when you react like that, you're not really in a grounded space. You're not really in a patient space. And it's probably better if you like, especially if you're like a person of influence, like don't just throw things out there on your social media. Happy birthday. Don't just throw things out like that, especially if you're a person of influence, because like what happened and what really like, it kind of threw me off. I was like, wow, like Nako, like I respect Nako and he's like an amazing musician and I love his music, but what he just did is just activate this like crazy, gnarly, negative, angry energy. And he's supposed to be like teaching about spirituality. Like his songs are about healing and spiritual. And it was like, whoa. And then you've got, and people were like attacking each other. Like, I was like, oh my God. Like, and he started it. You know what I mean? It's like, you can't do that when you're in that kind of an influential spot. People are offended by the MAGA hats. They view it as racist. Yeah, that's that's like what, that's the reason why those kids were being harassed. But if you think about it, like those kids are just fucking kids. You know what I mean? And they're probably just trying to do what they're just trying to like make their parents proud. You never know, like maybe later on in life, they'll realize that all of these belief systems that they've been taught, they had to like unlearn. Maybe some of them are struggling, you know what I mean? Like they don't know why they were born into, they were born into that family that, you know what I mean? That's their life lesson, whatever it is they have to learn. Like, so why are we like hating on people who are like on this planet having a human experience? Do you know what I mean? It's like, who gives a shit if they were wearing MAGA hats? You know what I mean? They're people too. And the same goes with like anything else that could have happened that could have, you know what I mean? You can do this to like, to everyone, right? To any kind of group, any kind of belief system. So where I'm trying to get to is that when something triggers you, it's like, that's the time where you need to like stop and like breathe and come back to your center. It's like, where am I at? You know, like, do I want to activate this frequency of hate, or do I want to like look at the bigger picture of not just what's going on here, but what's going on the whole planet, you know? And do I want to stay in my space of reverence? Do I want to continue to bring more light to the world, right? Like those are the things that you should be asking yourself, especially if you feel like you're a light worker. Like get out of the realm of like the polarities. Like rise above the polarities. And that's That's not easy to do, especially because we have such strong belief systems that kind of like pull at us, right? And this is why you're like, we have to undo all of this stuff. You have to undo all of these belief systems. You have to let go of the belief systems that are not yours, right? That you grew up with, that you were taught, they're just not who you are. You have to become your own thing. And you have to trust that, you know, and that every single person should have the opportunity to become their own thing and to make their own decisions, right? And then when you realize that, like, you know, the kids weren't actually, when you see the whole video of it, the kids weren't actually harassing anybody. They were just like waiting for the bus. Like they were waiting for the bus, and then like all these people coming at them. Like, what the hell was that? You know what I mean? You like, if you're a grown ass man and you look at a group of kids, and whether they're, you know, whether they're wearing whatever kind of hats or whatever thing, and you think in your mind, these are kids, like this is somebody's children, right? Or this is somebody's like little brother. You know what I mean? It's like, you don't think like, I'm gonna attack them because they're wearing MAGA hats. You probably have compassion, and you probably say, like, you know, I feel bad for them, because they're like in this life, they're in this world, and they don't even realize it, and there's so much more out there. And I pray that one day they will widen their perspective. You know what I mean? But that's true compassion. But you don't go and attack or harass or approach in a weird way, right? Anyways, I don't want to get into too crazy of a story, but I think this is a great example of this gene key, right? What do they want? Time travel? When do we want it? It's irrelevant. Hey, Jay! The African Israelites were insulting everyone they could literally see. Yeah, that's what they do, and that's sick. Exactly. Breath. Choose how to respond, not react. Exactly. Hey, Rocky Mountain! MRL, welcome in. Hey, Carla, welcome in. Classy, welcome in. Thanks for sharing and inviting, guys. All right, so let's move into the fifth city, which is called timelessness. Sadly for many, when politics arrive, logic goes out the window. And the thing is that it's not even logic, because it's logical for people who have certain belief systems to act the way they act. It's logical to react that way when you hate MAGA hats. You know what I mean? It's not even logic. It's heart. Your heart goes out the window. And your negative emotional patterns take over. Your triggers take over. Your trauma takes over. Like there's no peace there. Like, right? There's absolutely zero patience there. You lost it. You like lost control of yourself. Why do the man with the drum walk up to the child? He claims, that's a great question. He claims that he was trying to create peace in between the guys that were like yelling at the kids and the kids themselves. That's what he's claiming. But then that's what he said after he put out this statement that said, I heard them chanting, build a wall, build a wall. And the truth is that when you hear the video, they weren't chanting that. They were just like chanting their school, like whatever song. So even the men, like, I don't know. There's no way we'll ever know why. But what he did is actually like he came up to the kids and kind of like started drumming in their face and started like kind of walking his way through their crowd. It's like kids that are waiting for the bus, you know, who's like parents are probably like gonna be worried about him. You know what I mean? If they're in this like whatever. Anyways, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yes. Type before you spoke. Oh, does it make me less spiritual thinking mayonnaise sandwiches are gross? Does it make me less spiritual thinking mayonnaise sandwiches are gross? What do you mean, like just bread and mayo? No, not at all. Why would that make you less spiritual? Okay, so let's talk about this fifth city, which is called timelessness. So I just wanted to like recap and give an example of that story of how people just like reacted. They went from like zero to reaction in like no time, right? So, but the truth is that time doesn't exist, and patience is the virtue. Patience and like calmness and groundedness is what actually carries you forward higher into your vibrational frequency. Like imagine, right, that actually Jesus Christ was there that day. Like seriously, what do you think Jesus was doing? Yeah, right? Yeah, like there's no, like really, you just go through their crowd of kids like waiting for the bus with the adults told them to like stay there and wait and stay together, and you just like go through this group of, I mean, they're kids. I mean, when I look at pictures of myself when I was in high school, I'm like, I was a fucking kid. You think you're old and shit in high school? You're not. You're a kid. Do you know what I mean? And if you're a grown-ass man, I don't know. It's questionable behavior. Walking through a group of, you know, trying to like make a group of kids react or something to you, you know? Yeah. Zero to barf. Time to exist only in perspective to the beholder. So let's read about this fifth city, timelessness. It's called Hitting the Speed of Being. I love that. Since the discovery of DNA and the mapping of the human genome, a huge amount of energy has gone into trying to identify and locate genes that seem to have specific links to certain diseases and illnesses. Now that we humans have cracked the code of life, our goal is to try and use it to make our lives more secure, which is understandable. However, what the shadow frequency fails to release is that just because you can read a code does not mean that you are bound by that code. I think so too, Greenie. But that's just my opinion. Do you know what I mean? And there was cameras everywhere, so you never know. You never know. And this guy has been an activist for a long time, so we'll never know. We'll never know. We're only left to like our perception, our opinions, all of that. I saw pictures of me when I was in my 20s. I still looked very young. Yeah, even in your 20s. But in high school, you're like little kids, you know? I can't imagine like, attacking is a strong word, but I can't imagine trying to like get kids in trouble. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I can't imagine like choosing to like get kids in trouble. You know, it's crazy. Like, especially boys, they're like, you know, they got all this testosterone and they were like already chanting. They were already kind of hyped up, like, you know, doing their thing, being boys in a fucking group. And you're like, I don't know. I think he knew what was going to happen when he started walking up to them, or what could happen, right? Yeah. So, but then he, instead of just getting in between them, he actually pushed his way through the group with his drum until that one kid was like, reacted to him and was like, and just stood and didn't let him go by. And that's where like, that's the clip that we see, right? Or that we initially saw. It amazes me that that kid didn't have more of a reaction. Code is the formula which can be altered. Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah, well, the truth is that like if they were going to like, you know, attack, like they would have attacked, but they didn't do anything. The kids were just like laughing and hanging out, and they were like, they were just looking around like, what the hell's going on? We're in like, you know, this public space, and now there's this person drumming in front of us, and you know, before there was like, you know what I mean? It's like they're not fully mature. Hey, dog walker guy. Okay. However, what the shadow frequency fails to realize is that just because you can read a code does not mean that you're bound by that code. For example, knowing a child's genetic predisposition to heart disease may well end up being a double-edged sword, because the very knowing increases the possibilities of it occurring. If the parents respond through fear, then the frequency is indeed strengthened. At the gift level of frequency, thank you for the super hearts. You have just learned that higher manifestations of your DNA also exist. Where were the chaperones at that? Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question, a very good question. To live an open-hearted life is to operate at peak health and therefore to override any such genetic predispositions. To live an open-hearted life is to operate at peak health and therefore to override any such genetic predispositions. However, there exists an even higher truth hiding here in the Siddhic frequency. It is that all the codes can eventually be transcended and in fact designed to be transcended. So that means that our DNA was meant to be transcended and designed to be transcended. So it's already in our DNA that it's possible for us to change it, to become something else. You're not like predispositioned to like be this one thing forever. And that belief, because that's faith, that's like a belief. Thank you for the super hearts, Leanne. Those hats symbolize hate. They symbolize hate to you. They don't really symbolize hate to me. So that's like another perception, right? The hat is just a hat. And when so like when you look at it with your perception or your belief system of what's going on, then you attach all this meaning to it. But the reality is that, like, in reality, the hats don't have any meaning if you don't attach any meaning to it, right? If time doesn't exist, may I ask what's the driving force behind the relativity? Behind the relativity. The relativity of what? It's the school's responsibility to train chaperones at conflict resolution before a political event. There should definitely been, the chaperones should have definitely been there and should have definitely like walked up to the men and been like, what are you doing? Please remove yourself from my group. You know what I mean? Like, that's, if I was a chaperone, I would have been like, excuse me, this is not appropriate behavior and you need to please leave or I'm going to call the cops. You know what I mean? Like, whoa. Because it doesn't matter. Like, that's what a chaperone's job is to do, is to like protect, you know, the children. And you're talking about like people's kids here. No matter what belief system or political belief systems you have, everybody is a human being, right? I asked the same questions even if the kids had no hats. Exactly, exactly. For instance, the further you go from our planet, our time rate is different. That's okay? So for instance, the further you go from our planet, the time rate is different. Hey Lord, so time is a construct of our society. Do you understand at least that part of it? So with time, you have constructed it. Time has been constructed, like the time as we know it now, like 1 p.m., 2 p.m., minutes, hours, seconds, is a construct of our society, right? And yes, there is like mathematical meaning in all of it, but the truth is that time in a bigger perspective is not the same kind of time that like we have put on things. Example, the GPS sat systems are a few seconds faster than down here, but the software corrects this. Yes, because grown men with drums should know. It's not about the drum. It's not about the drum at all. It's about like, just, I don't know, people just get lost, you know, in the moment. Again, that the patience goes out the window. Time only exists on Earth. Hey there, yes, but I'm referring to space, time, and time in general. Space, time, and time in general. Time is an illusion, speed of light, etc. Answer different questions. Well, yeah, so I'm just going to keep going, okay? So we'll see what the book says. However, what the shadow frequency fails to realize, hang on, I've already read that part. Okay, the truth is momentous. What the shadow frequency views as a problem may actually be a higher genetic mutation waiting to be unlocked. Here at the highest Siddhic frequencies, codes can no longer be unlocked digitally, which means to say that the mind cannot comprehend them. Here at the highest Siddhic frequencies, codes can no longer be unlocked digitally, which means to say that the mind cannot comprehend them. Only the human spirit can unlock the deepest secrets of your DNA. It is here in the fifth city that the great secret known as enlightenment lies waiting. The highest code can only be awakened by the flood of high frequencies contained within the spectrum of light. This is why the ancients named the phenomenon of awakening enlightenment. The more you open yourself to higher frequencies of light, the more heightened the vibration becomes within your cellular DNA. Awakening usually occurs in a rhythmic or a logarithmic manner. That is to say, the body is periodically flooded by higher acidic frequencies prior to full-blown enlightenment. The distance in time between such events decreases by approximately 1/2 every time it occurs. The body is readying itself for an experience that will alter its own functioning permanently. Every time you experience such an inflow of acidic high-frequency light, you move through an intense period of mutation in which any glitches in your genetic code are erased. This translates into experience as deep unconscious fears rising up to the surface of your awareness through the medium of your body. After such periods, your whole system must literally be rebooted. These times in your life can be very challenging, and you may well experience some disorientation. As it nears the acidic threshold, the frequency of your body will begin to approach the speed of light. It is only when your frequency hits the speed of light that time finally dissolves and pure energy is experienced. This is the higher purpose hidden in all human DNA, to hit the speed of being. There's pics of a pep rally at that Kentucky school with children's faces painted black. Unconscious, contagious human ailment. Open mouth, insert food. Again, at the end of the fifth city, patience itself is completely transcended and something wonderful happens. You are a separate entity. You as a separate entity cease to exist. Impatience and patience are two ends of the same spectrum, and as such, they are rooted in the existence of time. There is a fascinating lesson to be learned from the spectrum of consciousness, and patience is the only key that allows you to see this lesson. Yes, at the level of the fifth city, patience itself is completely transcended, and something wonderful happens. You as a separate entity cease to exist. Impatience and patience are two ends of the same spectrum, and as such, they are rooted in the existence of time. Get it? There is a fascinating lesson to be learned from the spectrum of consciousness, and patience is the only key that allows you to see this lesson. All beings in life are waiting. Life itself can be seen as a waiting for death. We each wait for the future to reach into us, and as it does, so we see what life has planned for us. Consciousness dances through our vehicles in unique archetypal patterns. Sometimes we may find ourselves struggling in a shadow state, whilst at others we feel a deep sense of peace. Our lives are like the candle flame flickering in the winds of duality, impatience to patience, fear to trust, and back again endlessly. Acidic state is different from this. In the acidic state, you have jumped out of the game. You are not identified with the candle flame, even though it may go on flickering. You cannot talk in terms of patience or impatience because you cannot talk in terms of time or identity. This is the meaning of the city of timelessness. Timelessness is the nature of consciousness itself. It is unborn and undying. Timelessness does not care whether the body is exhibiting patience or impatience. It simply is. Timelessness is thus the death of all fighting. Patience and impatience are not absolute states. They are the poles within life, experienced through human awareness. Only timelessness is an absolute state, acidic state. The nature of the 64 cities can be seen very clearly through the fifth city. These are not glamorous states, even though the words may sound captivating. Most of the cities are actually very ordinary. They occur when the set of patterns that you call yourself finally experiences itself as nothing more than a set of patterns. Growing pains happen while we are purging the old beliefs. At this point, consciousness sees itself as the awareness operating through you is never quite the same again, even though the patterns of your nature continue to run until you die. What did they mean by the candle? I don't remember the word candle. I don't see the word candle. This great change occurs when the smaller self stops trying to interfere with the flickering of the candle flame of awareness. Oh, here we go. This great change occurs, people spell the adjective before the word state. Hey, Greg. Okay, this great change occurs when the smaller self stops trying to interfere with the flickering of the candle flame of awareness. It's just an expression. I think it's just expressing like a way to say like your higher awareness from one state to another. In other words, when you stop trying to leave the shadow frequency, only then can the paradox happen, when there is no more fight left in you. The fifth city, I love that. When there is no more fight left in you. That's when you get to the city. That's when you get to the divine gift. That's when you transcend all the bullshit, all the polarities, and step into a whole nother dimension. That's what I'm saying. A lot of us don't even get that our world that we live in, our perceptions, our thoughts, our reality are this dimension. When you get to these higher dimensions, these things stop existing. They literally stop existing. So until you stop fighting yourself, trying to be good, trying to be bad, trying to do the right thing, you know what I mean? Until when you stop fighting within, it's like you're just running around in circles with your mind, with your thoughts, when you keep saying like all these things, right? But then when you get to that higher state, it's like those things they're no longer there. They don't exist in that place. So the fifth city also shows up the problems of language. In this book, we talk about states in terms of frequency bands. A higher gift state is spoken of as having a higher frequency, and a shadow state as having a lower frequency. This language feeds the human evolutionary urge to achieve higher states. Because of this language, it may be assumed that a higher frequency is therefore your goal. Once you get the message, hang up the phone. Ironically, the acidic states cannot really be spoken of in terms of frequency at all, since frequency depends on oscillations of wave patterns within time. How then can we discuss timelessness, or indeed any of the other 63 cities? The answer is that we cannot, but we can still play within the language. This is the hidden lesson of the spectrum of consciousness, that it is actually a fallacy because you cannot measure or divide consciousness. You may well be wondering by now whether there is any point in going on in this exploration of the 64 gene keys. Well, there is, and there isn't. One thing is true to say, the more deeply your mind grasps the fact that you cannot do anything in life, the more you must begin to surrender both to your smaller genetic nature and your greater galactic nature. In the end, only timelessness will tell. You just said it again, states. Okay, so that concludes the discussion of the fifth city, the fifth gene key, the ending of time. Next broadcast, where I do the awakening scope, we're going to talk about the 6th gene key called the path to peace. Moving from conflict to diplomacy and then to ultimately peace. Thank you guys so much for watching this broadcast. Thank you, Greenie, for the super hearts. Thank you, Leanne, for the super hearts. Thank you, Travis, for the super hearts. Thank you, the dog walker guy, for the super hearts. Thank you, Greg, for the super hearts. And thank you, everybody, that for being here and participating in the conversation. I don't want anybody to feel like good or bad. We were just having a conversation. So what's the word before the word states, please? Citic states. Citic, as in the city. This is the word city. Let's see if I can put it on the screen. Right there. This is the word city. So Citic states, I'm just talking about the divine gifts. Not acidic states. Not acidic. Citic, as in the divine gift expression of that gene key. But thank you guys for being here. Thank you for the participation in the chat. It's good to have these conversations. It's good to like get into a space of like, who am I? Who am I? What is my truth? Right? That's what we want to activate in our lives. So I want to thank you guys so much for being in this broadcast. I won't go live again today. I actually have to go get Dawn from the airport now. You're welcome. But I will leave you guys, and we'll be back tomorrow for sure. I'm gonna see if I can do the Miracle Morning Scope in the morning, so we can do our meditation and our affirmations and our journaling. And then later on tomorrow, I'm gonna do the sound healing scope tomorrow evening. So make sure to tune in for that. And if I have time to do an awakening scope, then I will definitely do it. Okay. Love you guys so much. Have an awesome rest of your evening, and we'll see you tomorrow. Ciao.